Well, and our next guest is in the heart of a lot of things around the world of crypto. Ben Armstrong is the founder of BitBoy Crypto as a content creator focused on the world of cryptocurrency. Ben, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Any day I get to come on and, spread the good news of crypto. It's a great day.
What was it that first piqued your interest about cryptocurrency in the first place?
Back in 2012, I was running another business and I had to have a software. And the long and short of it is the software, got their payment processors shut down and had to take Bitcoin. And so December of 2012 was when I first bought Bitcoin. 2013, the price spiked, towards the end of the year, and looking at the price, it got me really, really fascinated into it. And, really 2017, when everything went a little more mainstream, altcoins started coming on the scene. That's when I really kind of threw my hat in the ring and said, I'm just going to go all in on crypto.
So do you see the future of it? And obviously it's still kind of in a development process, being more as a payment element, or to a degree, is it going to be more as an investment for a lot of people, which many of them see it as?
Well, yeah, I think very specifically, Bitcoin fits exactly what you're saying here. We look at Bitcoin as digital gold. We don't call Bitcoin a cryptocurrency. I actually don't even like the word cryptocurrency. When we look at CBDCs, which are like centralized, digital versions of fiat, that's probably what we're going to be using in the digital sphere, for the least, near to midterm at least. But when it comes to Bitcoin, it's digital gold. Its number one value is it appreciates in value. And we just saw something very, that outlines that very well with Central Africa. Said they were going to accept Bitcoin as a currency. And now a few weeks later, they said, actually, it doesn't make sense for us to do that, because you don't want third world country citizens spending appreciating assets.
Yeah. And I guess that's the part that a lot of people are still trying to figure out, is that when you have a country like Venezuela say that they're going to use it as their main currency. You mentioned about Central Africa. I think you have so many elements that are still trying to figure it out at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a learning experience. And it's one of these things, just like almost anything that someone tries to become an expert in. It's like the more you learn about it, the more you realize how much you don't know. And the more you realize how far away mainstream adoption is, for crypto. It's going to happen at some point, but it's going to come in phases, and it's going to come in slowly. And due to the Bitcoin cycles, we usually see a gigantic bear market every 4 years, like we're going through right now. And so it's kind of like a 3-step forward, 2 steps back process a lot of times.
So what's occurred in the last several weeks, not really a concern to you? This is part of the process?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year, people know my channel. They know that I'm very bullish on Bitcoin, and we thought Bitcoin was going to hit 100K last year. It didn't, but we forecasted this year, no matter where Bitcoin was, to be a down year. It has to do with something called the Bitcoin halving, which is the event every 210,000 blocks, which is approximately 4 years, where the production of Bitcoin gets cut literally in half. It's a big supply shock to the miners. It leads to a hyper price drive. And then we get a large drop because the value is overheated. So last year, Bitcoin was definitely trading well above, what the average value of it should have been.
So you can then lock us in here to where we are right now with all of the conversations around the volatility and the potential regulation that we might see in the months and years ahead, and obviously the state of the U.S. economy right now. How much are all of those elements connected to cryptocurrency, to digital gold, or are they relatively separate, do you think?
Well, I think it's a very interesting question because, very frequently we go through things in our economy and people will say, oh, well, Bitcoin's never seen this before. So right now, it's, oh, we've never seen a recession since Bitcoin's been around since 2009. And what I always tell people is you can map the Bitcoin 4-year cycles since the beginning of Bitcoin, and they've been extremely consistent. The ROI and the ROI has been diminishing. We call that diminishing returns. However, the downside has been very consistent, dropping 85% on average every 4 years. And so because of that, I always lean on the history and say, regardless of what's going on right now in the macroeconomic sphere, as long as Bitcoin's still tracking on that same 4-year cycle, there's nothing to be concerned about. And there's no reason to think that we're going to see anything different than we've always seen before. It's Missouri at this point. You got to show me, it's different before I'm going to say, okay, I'll look at another option.
What do you also say about the conversation around the numbers of different cryptocurrencies that are out there, and the belief that maybe at some point that needs to be pared down and you get to 5, 10, whatever that number is, whatever that magic number is, that are the most secure and solid entities to be able to build this industry even farther.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back and look at the dot-com bubble, I think it's a really good parallel. Estimates are somewhere between like 95 to 98% of companies, from that time failed. But you look at the winners, though. You have Google. Well, Google wasn't technically around for the dot-com bubble. But you obviously have Amazon and companies in that same thread that have done really well. Yeah, we definitely need crypto to pare down. But I mean, even if at this point we were to pare down 98%, I mean, you're still left with 200 cryptocurrencies or crypto assets, as we like to call them. So there's this big belief that during this bear market, like 99% of coins are going to fail and yada, yada, yada. If you actually go and look at CoinMarketCap and start looking at the projects themselves, even though we have about 20,000 cryptos out there, the fact is there's really only about 200 to 300 that are viable right now anyways. So I think that estimate of, how many we're going to see fail during this bear market, I think it's a little overblown, because I would argue many of them have already failed.
Then the question is, where do we head here in the future? Because for the general public, I think right now it's still very much an area that they're either trying to figure out if they want to get involved in, trying to learn more about it, trying to understand a little bit more. I'm kind of in that boat myself right now. How far wider do you think that we're going to get in terms of adoption of these platforms?
Well, I think we have to look forward over the next 4 years and say, where are we going to be? Well, really about 3 years from now, where are we going to be? Because we'll be the same part of the cycle where we were last year when the prices were rising and going up and things like that. So I think that's really what people usually do, is they come in when it's real exciting. And then they come into crypto and they're like, okay, either I get this, I understand it, I see the vision, and they stay for the long term, or maybe they throw some money in at the wrong time, they lose their money and they get out. In terms of actual adoption, though, I mean, we are seeing adoption across a lot of different areas. If you look at how smart contracts are being used, how NFTs, metaverse, gaming, play to earn, how those things are being used, and I think it's going to be kind of like kind of one of those things where people are going to be using a lot of it without actually realizing they're using it. Right now, there's a lot of pushback from the gaming community outside of crypto. But in 4 years from now, probably most of these games are going to be moving towards blockchain, because it allows you through NFTs to take assets from video game to video game. And because right now, the way Fortnite works, for instance, is you're basically renting a costume. If you're a kid playing the game, you're renting a costume while you have that game turned on. You don't actually own it. But in the future, when you're able to move one of those costumes to another game, it's going to really open up people's eyes to what blockchain technology can do.
The one that caught my attention, and I guess this was back in 2021, was the Oakland A's, the baseball team, starting to sell tickets and accept Bitcoin as payment for people buying tickets to go to the game. Now, obviously, a lot of people don't go to Oakland A's games,
right?
Still, it's that mindset of the team of seeing what the future of payment is going to be. And I think, is that kind of the landscape where you have a lot of businesses right now?
So it's a situation where it's not really advantageous for people to spend Bitcoin, but it is advantageous for companies to accept Bitcoin, if you think of it that way. So in general, when we see any company or sports team in this example say they're taking Bitcoin, it's really for marketing purposes. They're trying to ride the hype and get attention. At the end of the day, most people are not going to spend Bitcoin to do this. However, a little conspiratorial here, on my channel, we believe that the Coinbase dollar, USDC, will eventually become the federal digital dollar in the United States. That's going to be when you're going to be really able to spend, crypto in a way that makes sense for purchases, when it's a stable coin, which USDC is, where the value is always $1. So like I said, spending Bitcoin doesn't make a lot of sense. Outside of it, the very top of the market is a way maybe to take profits. You go buy a car, you go buy a house, something like that with Bitcoin, and then the price goes down and it was a good decision. So right now we're not in that phase.
But we're probably still a little bit of ways away from that, because I would imagine we got to go through the regulatory side before we get to the point of a federal digital dollar.
Right. Well, they're hyper focused on stable coins right now. The U.S. government is. And I think there's a reason for that, because they are planning this federal digital dollar. Obviously, China already has the digital yuan. Their rollout of it has been clunky. It's been bad. The people don't like it. But, they have to use it, if China says so. So in the United States, we're going to go through a little different of a process. The regulation is something definitely to pay attention to for the rest of this year. I think specifically midterm elections, what that might have to do with Bitcoin. Traditionally, we've bottomed after the midterm elections, 3 to 5 weeks after. So we could get some regulatory news coming out, from that standpoint. But overall, just when it comes to, regulation, I don't think it's something to really be worried about. If you're in crypto, you cannot ban Bitcoin. It's not a thing that's even possible. Yeah. And so when the government goes from that presupposition, understanding that, everything else will fall in as details.
Ben, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
I look forward to talking to you again down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Ben Armstrong is the founder of BitBoy Crypto.